Time to talk some Keeneland Saturday, October the 19th. We'll talk about that late pick 5 sequence that's coming up for you. Races 6 through 10 on Saturday, October the 19th. I'm Gino Bacola alongside my good friend Barry the Sniper Spears. Remember, those packages are still available and you can still save money because what's cool on Saturdays, they have the betting strategies. You can also purchase those individually for Saturdays. Shop.drf.com. Get all the help you need this weekend over at Keeneland on Saturday. My man, how's everything going on your end?
Hanging in there, you know what I'm saying? It's a little weird time, especially now down here in Florida. Now that the hurricanes blew through everything, and now the wind, the little chill in the air has got here. We got a little fall snap, and I'm cold.
It's a little chilly. I was gonna say you and I are the warm-blooded types. You know what I mean? Like we run warm. I'm not you. Once you start getting below 60, that's sweater weather. My sweats are coming on. I'm starting to bundle up. So
I wish I owned any of that stuff.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
No problem admitting that I am a wuss when it comes to the weather. And I've also been a little bit of a wuss when it comes to my body fighting off a bit of a sickness I've had recently. If any of you can hear it in my voice, apologies there, but feeling a little bit better as we head on to the weekend. So Barry and I will try to get you set up for a pick 5 at Keeneland on Saturday. Barry, we're only 2 weeks away, man, from the Breeders' Cup. How crazy is that?
Man, I can't wait. It's going to be a great one this year. All the fields are coming together, and it just looks like a bunch of good competitive fields and prices all day.
Pre-entries will be out on October the 23rd. So that's when it kind of really settles in oh, wow. And for me, we had some meetings at DRF this week, putting together the schedule of where people are going to be and when we'll be out there at the track. So it's oh, wow, I know where I'm going to be on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday of Breeders' Cup week. So it definitely feels like we're getting there just a few weeks out. Let's make some money here and let's see if we can lead you all in the right direction. Keeneland Saturday, race number 6. Barry, 6.5 furlongs. It's an optional 80 claimer. It's a non-winners of 2 that kicks off the pick 5 sequence, race number 6. Horses that will take a good amount of support in here. The number 4, Wyco, is your 3-2 morning line favorite. He's run well at Keeneland. The problem is in 3 straight races, he's been your beaten favorite. So he's a horse who has no problem burning some money. The 1, Cape Trafalgar, he'll take some support. He makes a lot of sense. His win 2 starts back was pretty good in a similar type spot. Those 2 will be, I think, 2 of the major players that get a lot of wagering support in here. And then there's some others that'll be pretty fair prices if you want to jump on into them. Let me know, who are some of the horses on your radar?
Yeah, I thought the 3-2 morning line on the 4, Wyco, was a little ambitious. I mean, I can't trust that horse on the dirt. I mean, it looks like, on paper that all these horses have kind of similar running styles. I mean, if you compare, let's just say the 1, Cape Trafalgar, and the 4, Wyco, they look the same on paper. So it really just doesn't bode well for me to think that this horse is just going to do the same thing he's always been doing and win.
Yep.
Granted, he's got.
And I completely agree with what you're saying. It's funny because sometimes it's hard to articulate what you want to get across. I mean, for me, if I have a point and you were hitting what I was just trying to say, you just have a lot of horses in this race that feel like they could be in the same spot that aren't that much faster than each other. And that's when things can get contentious sometimes.
Right. And I just think this race is going to get a little weird.
Yeah.
And there's some horses to go to here. Like a horse that really, really piques my interest is the 8, 2 Eagles River. Because if you just put a line through that turf race on September 11th, this horse with a setup is probably going to be running here late.
You can look at the races where he went 1 mile and 1/8 and just say those are too far. And then the race back in June, he took a little bit of time off after that. And if you can forgive that little stretch of those 3 races in a row, then the form looks really good, especially at about 6.5 furlongs.
Right. And he's proven, to be amongst the faster horses in here because he's had a buyer in the 90s which not all these horses have. But they're all kind of flirting with that, meaning that they could jump up a point here or two, given a better trip.
Have a cup of coffee with a 91 or a 92, something in that range. Here's a look at Giant Mischief, who you and I talked about last week when Giant Mischief came back off the long layoff and won. So this was a horse that he was behind last year, a really nice horse. And this is a race that's come back very live. He kept some nice company. And this group feels like a pretty evenly matched group. I'm looking for a couple horses that I think will offer value. And I'm very much against the 4 in here too.
Yeah, I think the 8 is probably a good start, especially at a price. The 2-horse Scoot Daddy is another
Absolutely.
I really don't think this horse, really wants synthetic or turf. And his better races were those 2, dirt starts. And he had a nice one there at Gulfstream, even though he didn't win. Faced some adversity, didn't get a great trip and still ran on pretty good. I think that fits well here. I like the work on October 12th in preparation for this, and it looks like kind of all systems go. Second time off the layoff, getting the hot jock and Tyler Gaff.
He might be like the real, true lone closer in the race.
Right.
Like with what we were talking about, how so many of these horses are probably wanting to be just behind the leader and maybe could get the lead and they'd be okay with it. Like the 1, the 3, Principe Carlo, the 4, Waiko, the 5's kind of in that mix too, the 6, all horses that are in that same sort of range. The 7, Deer District, maybe can sit a little bit more. Eagles River has some versatility, which is nice, like has shown the ability to do both. But Pay Zone also that same sort of. So there are versions of this race where all of these horses are within like 2 lengths of each other, jockeying for position. And one of the few that's really comfortable just sitting back 5 or 6 lengths behind everybody is Scoot Daddy.
Yeah, and he should get a nice trip here. He's shown some ability to kind of get into races a little earlier
closer.
Too.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, look at that September 22nd race up at Woodbine. He was kind of close to the pace and ran on. And that kind of trip, especially behind the 1, who I think is kind of have his hands forced to get to the front and just follow that one and kind of, pick a spot come around the turn.
So because the 1 extreme of the 2 getting the kind of trip we're talking about, where he can kind of sit and be closing and passing a lot of horses and just have a lot more late energy. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum, I'm going to throw in the 5 on a couple of pick 5 tickets because I think if they can get him back to his first couple starts, he may be able to be one of the quicker. And I actually do really like when Julien Leperreau is on a speed horse and able to get him out front and just sort of get the horse to really relax out front. Those first couple races were excellent. Then he went in the Arkansas Derby. He tried going, they wanted to see who he really was. He faces Muth and Mystic Dan in there. Comes back and he has to hook a good track and a sloppy track. He has 1 race on a fast dirt sprint. And it was a winner, and it was his debut, and he earned an 89 Beyer speed figure, sprinting, which would be pretty close to in range with this group. He may be a horse that gets forgotten about, and I don't love the trip for him because I do think it's probably going to be a really hard trip for him to get this. But I could actually see if he catches a flyer, and then everyone else is kind of content with just sitting right behind that, and he sneaks away. So I'm going to throw him in on a couple tickets here and there because he has a ceiling that's pretty good. We just haven't seen him with many chances on a fast dirt surface. And the only time we did, he fired fresh, winning his career debut. That's the 5 Time for Truth.
Yeah, I mean, those are the kind of details that you can uncover or at least give a shot to. You know what I mean?
And the price has to match right? Like, I wouldn't be talking about this if he was 5-2, but there's already going to be some price built in there with him in here. And I think there are a lot of excuses.
It's like one of those things, like, I'll give you a basketball comparison.
Yep.
So when you shoot, you want to shoot the ball with arc on it because you want to give the ball a chance to go in the hoop. That's like how I feel about the 5.
Yep.
Getting this horse in this race gives him a chance to win. I think Ron Moquette is calculated here at least, putting this horse in this spot. And I think this horse will be in similar spots going forward, obviously, unless he just blows the doors off him and turns into a bona fide stakes horse. But he's still pretty good. And I think he's showing his confidence in him and putting him in this spot.
So, only other one that we didn't mention, I think is a little interesting. Fort Warren was a Baffert horse to start.
10, yeah.
And he can maybe kind of just sit from the outside. I could see him running well second start off the bench. He had a bizarre trip last time out at Churchill. So he's sitting like 3 deep. He's right off the lead. And you're, okay, pretty good trip. Just 3 wide from the outside, or from the outside, just the other 2. And then all of a sudden, like a group of 3 or 4 horses to his outside just sort of rush up. And he gets sort of caught in between horses and goes way back from like 3rd all the way to almost last. You can see it in the running line. He loses like 6 or 7 lengths of positioning. He drops all the way back to 7th. And I think it was more of like the clumping and all these horses coming up, because then at the top of the lane, the horse came on again and he passes some horses. He was actually favored in that race. I think if you just put a line right through that and you're playing him off of some of his races last year where he was a runner-up going a mile and a runner-up going 5.5 furlongs in spots just like this at Churchill, he's another.
Look at the company he's been facing, though.
I know.
I mean, you got Havana Meltdown, who was a really nice horse at the time.
Yep.
Arabian Lion.
Yep.
Who was
Injunction.
Nice. Injunction. Candyman
Drew's Gold.
Rocket.
Yep.
Drew's Gold. I mean, he's not running against some bums. Even his last race, Gold Luck is no slouch.
So I think he's a player. If you're trying to beat the 4 in here, these are the type of horses you're looking for. The ones like Barry mentioned, the 8, the 5, the 2, the 10. These are the types of price horses you're looking for in a spread out race that can, maybe get you a little separation and get you a nice start to this late pick 5 sequence. Anything else you want to hit on here, buddy, before we turn the page?
Nope. I think we nailed that one.
Yep. Let's head to the Perryville. Couple of graded stakes races coming up in the next 3 races. 7 and 9 are the graded stakes races on the Saturday card. The Perryville, we'll see some really talented horses. Like, I respect the heck out of Bookham Dano. He is really nice horse. His losses have come to Forever Young, who that horse is going to take a lot of money in the Classic this year.
Yeah, he is.
He's going to take a lot of money in the Breeders' Cup Classic because there's not really that horse in the Classic, or it's a spread out, wide open group, and a horse like that is one that I think a lot of people are looking towards. But Bookham Dano is just really solid. You look at his 3 straight triple-digit buyer speed figures. I don't have any knocks on him. But I do think there are some other really solid horses in here, like the 3, Knightsbridge, who just hasn't run in a while. He's kind of his own worst enemy. He's got a ton of talent, but it seems like it takes a lot out of him. Or he kind of, it takes him a while to get back to the races. We've seen that from him in both of his starts. After his debut in November, then in March, we couldn't get him back and looking for any type of Kentucky Derby points or trying to get him into any of those types of races. I also personally am a big fan of the 1 sprinting. If you dive into his form sprinting overall and just eliminate the races going a little bit longer, he's run really well. And he jumped up with a nice speed figure. I think he's just a horse who's very good going a little bit shorter. Talented group, but you and I have talked about Who Day a few times. He's a nice Ohio bred. He's really honest. Like, he always shows up. And now his races against Seize the Gray look even better when he wasn't beaten that much by him back in the Pat Day Mile. So thought an intriguing race here, Barry. Locked, for anyone who's curious, is entered in this race, but he's going to run at Belmont at the Big A. Also entered on Saturday over there.
Yeah, I figured he was not going to make that trip. This is definitely a tougher field.
Yeah.
But this is a really interesting race. I think this pace could get a little hot up front, which sort of helps Bookham Dano a lot.
Yeah.
He's going to be real tough in this spot.
I agree.
I mean, just speed figure wise, without anything else, you could tell he's probably going to be pretty tough. I mean, he's got 3 triple-digit buyers. Nobody can say that. In fact, I don't think anybody else has a triple-digit buyer, period. And he's got 3 of them.
Straight. And if you're just talking about like the tiers of horses, he is in the top tier of the 3-year-old sprinters. You know, he's a grade 1 3-year-old sprinter. And this is a lower level, right? And the rest of this, it just looks like it when you look. That's not saying he can't lose this race. There are other talented horses here. But he has been facing, in the Woody Stevens and the Jerkins, the best of the 3-year-old sprint division. And this group is just a little bit lower. It's a couple rungs below what he's been doing before. And it just feels that way. Henro is solid, but Henro is a horse that's been facing listed stakes company and now will be stepping up. Knightsbridge, really talented. Gets the acid test, though. He's never really been pushed at all. We don't have any idea who he is. Even a horse like Houday, who I mentioned, he's been in a grade 3 and a grade 2, but he hasn't been repeatedly in grade 1s against good horses like we've seen with Bookham Dano. Even the Saudi Derby, which was a grade 3, he's running against grade 1 horses there with like Forever Young.
Yeah, I mean, he's keeping great company, and he has to have, you know, the edge over this field in that regard. But like you said, you know, they got to run the race. A horse that really caught my attention is the 7 Patriot Spirit.
Yes.
I really like that race off the bench from April 21st to September 7th. Ran a bang-up race, and I think this horse can springboard off of that one. And this is a nice spot. I know the barn doesn't really do well with these types, but it's a small barn in general, so you're not going to get the huge sample size anyway. And I think they're capable, and especially this horse has gotten better since turning 3. And looks to be kind of continuing
on the improvement. Yeah, he's stepping forward right now too. Yeah, he's a fun long shot.
I like him in this spot, but man, it's really going to be tough for me to get past Bookham Dano on top. Maybe use that horse in the exacta, but definitely using both of those two in multi-race bets.
Barry and I both feel like Dano's the one to beat. Barry mentions Patriot Spirit as an interesting price play. I thought the 1 Henro was a fun one. If you throw out the Mountaineer race going a mile and an 1/8, defeated just a touch, a couple starts back in the Iowa Derby. That was going a mile and a 16th. So he can get that, but he's definitely a horse who been really, really good at the sprints. Knightsbridge, kind of the wild card. How is he going to impact this race, having not raced since March? There's a look at the grade 3 Perryville. They'll all have to beat Bookham Dano in race 7 on Saturday over at Keeneland. Barry, as we move on to race number 8, I heard the news. You're going to be helping out the Wolf of Oaklawn as a permanent co-host right now over with Chase Sessoms. Tell everybody a little bit about that.
Yeah, you know, he just kind of asked me if I'd like to do it. I did some shows before. We had good rapport and some success with the picks and everything. And I was just like, all right, man, I'm not doing anything else. You know, obviously here with Gino all the time, which is fantastic. But, you know, doing double duty.
Beautiful.
So, yeah, you know, helping him out and see what happens.
A little more Barry is great for everybody out there. So love to hear that. Make sure to give Barry a follow and check out Chase and Barry doing great work there. Is it the Notorious OTB?
That's it.
That's it. Okay, awesome. Let's get to race number 8, my friend. We have non-winners of 3, third level allowance, mile and a 16th on the turf course here. Couple to start the conversation with. The 3 Irish Aces, very consistent horse, and hooked Goliad last time. And Goliad's just one of those runoff horses, so sometimes he just wires fields. But Irish Aces fits really well with speed figures against this group. The number 10 comes off of a big win at Kentucky Downs last time out for Shug. DeTore jumps aboard, earned a nice 98 Beyer speed figure, winning by 6 in that one. And then to the outside, the 12 Taking Candy, really nice form right now. Can sit close with that outside draw. Should probably sit very close. There's not that much speed in here, honestly. I think the 8's the horse to catch. And then after the 10, there aren't that many other fast horses. A lot of horses that want to be kind of sitting mid-pack or making runs from the back of the pack. So talk to us about this one. Who are some of the horses on your radar here?
Yeah, this one isn't quite as exciting as the other races. I thought the horse coming from overseas, Bold Discovery, probably, might need a race. The horse was kind of spiraling down form wise over there, comes over here looking to turn it around, which certainly can. He's definitely capable, but I'm gonna pass on that one. That one definitely piqued my interest at first, and then kind of looked at some of the races. He's running with good company, but just really not doing very much. And I think he's probably closer, aligned with these horses, and I don't know if he could be able to launch from way, way back like he might do. Irish Aces I liked last time. Got a weird trip because of Goliad, and Goliad just kind of ran off, and Irish Aces didn't really get to do what he needed to do. And he's definitely in a better spot here where there's no runoffs, but that also may put him up against, closing into whatever pace is up front. And he's also going against, he's going against his nemesis in Taking Candy, who beats him on the square every time they kind of match up. And I think Taking Candy is probably the classiest horse in this race, and will probably get a really good trip, even though he's on the outside in the 12 hole. Like you said, there wasn't much speed, and I think Jose can pick his spot and get where he wants to, because this horse can close or be close up, and it's just really tough to get around Taking Candy in that class. I mean,
I like him too.
Carl Spackler, Policy Option, Rarefied Flair.
His losses are only to really good horses. He loses to Carl Spackler a couple starts back. We've seen what he's done this year. He's just been incredible. The last two grade ones, just big speed figures for Carl in those. He's losing to really good horses. He's losing to Running Bee, who's just a more accomplished horse than him. Running Bee's an older horse who's a multiple graded stakes winner, I believe, or at least a grade 3. Yeah, grade 3 winner. And just has more experience, and he just got beat by a little bit better horse.
Worth noting too. This horse's wins all came while using Lasix, and gets the Lasix on Saturday too.
Yep.
So that's got to be, you can even see the horse just every time he's off Lasix, he just falls a tiny bit short, and that may be the difference. I don't know, but something to think about.
Third start of the form cycle. This barn's been pointing these horses to this meet. They've been having such a nice meet to start, and the race just shapes up really well for him to kind of get the jump. So if we play a little pick 5 this week, maybe we will, and we'll single the 12 on a couple tickets that we like. Because I'm the same. I think he just gets a great trip, and then after that, I would go to the horse. The 8 would be a fun horse to throw in underneath. I don't know how good he is, but he's gonna get he should be able to catch a flyer, and probably have the 12 just tracking.
Hey, if I was that rider, connections, trainer, I would say just go, try to do the Goliad thing.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. There's just not a lot of horses that are naturally quick enough that are going to be pushing you, and that's their best chance of winning. Others that may be fun in the bottom of exotics. You're talking about the 2. I agree. I don't think the race is going to shape up that well. Peros is in nice form, at least. He's won 3 in a row, so you can understand why he steps up here. Maker does this with horses, claiming them, then able to step them up and roll them through the ranks and get a little higher.
That horse
higher
actually
class levels.
Scares me a little bit.
Scares
me a little bit because you see how he claimed him in that $40,000 claimer at in July, then turned him back before the meet ended in a higher level, and he won pretty easily that day too. I think my thought is this isn't the time to get him. It's the next one.
Yeah.
I think he might need this experience in this kind of race to kind of figure it out, see what he's got. And I think the next time is the one for Peros, but you never know.
Let's look at race number 8 on Saturday. The 9th race is the Grade 2 Lexus Raven Run, 7 furlongs on the main track, filly 3-year-old sprinters with the number 5, Emery, the heavy favorite in here. This is a really nice 3-year-old filly, Barry. She has 2 losses. Her losses came to Just FYI before she went on and run the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, and her other loss came to Ways and Means. Ways and Means has now won 3 straight races, and Ways and Means is going to be the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint favorite. So another horse who you look at, the races she's lost have been to really nice horses. She has speed. She can sit off the pace, though. She doesn't have to ever be too far out of races. And when you compare her to some of her top rivals in this race, like look at the 3, My Main Squeeze, who I believe is the 4-1 second choice on the morning line. And My Main Squeeze 2 starts back got beat by Mystic Lake. And I know it's not always this easy as just playing that common rival game, but Mystic Lake got beat by Emery a couple starts back. And in that race, it just felt like Emery was the better horse and had that one handled at all times. So I think from a starting point, Emery hands down the horse to beat in here. Really solid. I don't have many knocks on her, Barry.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's just a real difficult thing when you see these kind of horses show up in races like this. This is a stakes race, and you have this horse that hasn't been out since August, who ran okay in the test.
You talk about this with the Brad Cox runners often, actually.
Yes, and it always puts you in that position of what do you do?
Because 2.5 months now is a little different than a month, right? At the end of Saratoga 5 weeks ago, we're starting to get to, all of August, all of September off, and then half of October. So there are absolute possibilities where she might just be a little bit short.
That's what I'm going to think in this spot. And her running style is going to, there's a lot of horses that want to do what she's going to do. Fibber, for example, is one of them. Maybe the 2, and Irad's going to get aggressive for sure. So
Mucha?
I'm not sure what kind of trip Emery really is going to get. I don't think they're going to just bolt out to the lead, although they might. I don't know. It's a tough read on Emery. I'm not willing to take 7-5 on a question mark. That I think is a question mark. I like Vivi's Dream quite a bit here, especially that last race, September 15th at Churchill. Didn't get the best of runs at it. Was kind of stuck on the rail and got out late, made a little run and sort of flattened out. But I'm tending to think that horse needed that race.
Yep.
And that was a good learning lesson, being down on the rail like that. Because the time before the horse was on the rail at Fairgrounds, it kind of did the same thing. And I think getting off the rails actually helps too. So in addition to that, the cutback second time at this sort of distance,
second start back,
distance.
She missed a lot of her 3-year-old season too. She could be a little grown up now and step forward.
And I love that October 12th work at Churchill. I mean, all systems are pointing to this horse running probably the best horse of her, best race of her career. And, at 8-1, I think you'll get most of that 8-1.
I was 5, 6, 7 in this race for me. So I'm completely with you on Vivi's Dreams. I think that was a perfect comeback race, set her up. She's the type of horse who will be much stronger second start back. Those races going long. Look, she won at a mile, but she was way better than that group at that time. And anytime they went a little bit longer, it was too far for her. And I think she's probably a horse who's best from 6 furlongs up to a mile. This will be right in her wheelhouse. The 7 Minx Palace, what's really interesting about her, career debut, taken back, off the pace, she wins. Second start, they put her on the lead. She doesn't. Third start, she's going long. So I think we can we're not really using that race as much as a gauge, but she's a little bit more forwardly placed there. June 22nd, they grab more of a hold of her. She's sitting 5th of 7, only a length and a quarter off, but she's sitting. She wins by 4. Audubon Oaks, they go back to the lead, fades. Last time out, grab a hold again. She's taken back, same sort of thing. Like not even 2 lengths out of it. And she beat Vivi's Dream, who we just talked about. I just think it really comes down to the trip with this horse. I really do think she likes the target, and she's a lot better when she can sit behind horses, kind of angle out, angle around. Look at her speed figures in those races that I were pointing out, how they're improving each time. And can she step forward again off of that one more time here? Yeah, and she's going to be a way better price than a horse like Emery, who's, going to be looking for the same sort of trip. So while I respect Emery, I'll probably try to get out of this race like 5, 6, and 7 because I'm glad you mentioned Vivi's Dream, and I thought the 7 Minx Palace could offer us some nice value here too.
Yeah, I thought the 2 was worth a look as well.
Yeah,
on the improve, this horse is definitely improving at this time. This is probably the right time to get a horse like this.
Right spot.
Yeah, I mean, she's certainly fast. Should get a good trip behind the speed. Tough read at 6-1. I'm definitely using the 2 and 6.
So there's a look at the Raven Run. I think we got through most of these. Fibber, who you talked a little bit about earlier, My Main Squeeze is a nice New York bred, very good form. But I think she's going to have to step up a little bit to get the better of some of these. And I like some of the more peaking at this time runners that Barry and I were just discussing. It could be maybe a Minx Palace. Vivi's Dream might be set for a good one. Second start back off the bench. Let's finish this pick 5 sequence up with a doozy, a mile on the turf course to close things out. We have 2-year-old fillies. And what's so fun about races like this, totally respect the 3 in that was a good debut. Horse got the lead, finished second. The 3rd place finisher in that race has already come back to win next time out. And when you have a field like this where we haven't seen a lot of these horses run or run very often, run much, looks to be the proven speed in here. But there are a lot of other fun horses you can make cases for in this race, just being lightly raced horses with maybe grass pedigree or thinking they can improve second time out. So this is a cool race because I respect anyone who would say, yeah, I think Running Away might be the real proven horse to beat in here. Or anyone who would say, you know what? There are 4 or 5 other horses that I think are going to be really nice prices that I'd rather use them and go in that direction. A lot of ways you could go in this race, Barry.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways, but not too many that will get you into the winner's circle, unfortunately. Running Away on paper looks pretty tough, but how can you trust this horse? Where the hell has she been? They couldn't find a race from July 21st to October 19th.
Well, so here and see what you're hitting at. Look, so after the July 21st race, she comes back and works on August the 8th. And then nothing till September the 21st. So for a horse who's going to be a really short price, there was likely some issue that kept her from coming back to run again at Saratoga there, where she was really good and would have been heavily favored in her second start. So that is a big thing to point out with a horse like this. Doesn't mean she can't win. Might be able to clear the field. She's come back and worked the 21st, the 30th, and then twice in October. But that's not like you missed one work either. That was from August 8th to September 21st. There's nothing.
Yeah, I mean, for a horse that's probably going to take a lot of money.
It's a little scary.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not so willing to put my faith in that one.
We liked a couple other shorter prices earlier in the card that we'd be more willing to lean on. Talking Candy, Bookham Dano, right? Horses like that. If you were... Just for you and I, if we're building our pick 5 tickets and we're looking for a race to either single or maybe just go too deep and shorten up in some of those races, I'd prefer doing it, I think, in those races. Yes. Even as we mentioned, I'm a little more okay with Emery, but I would be okay going 2 or 3 deep there. I pointed out 5, 6, 7 as horses I like. This one to me, I'm a little more worried because of what we're talking about here.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta be that's shaky at best. Yeah, but I've seen Ward do these kind of things and win, so
Absolutely,
it's not out of the question. But I like the 8 High Breeze here.
that's my top pick.
But I think this horse is going to take a lot of money.
Yeah,
I don't think 12-1 is going to stick, not even close. I think this horse is probably going to be second or third choice, meaning 4-1, maybe 5-1 tops. Because if you look at that race on September 13th at Laurel, horse just got left and then got pinched at the start and had no chance. But
so he's the
running
3
like a freight train in the stretch
in the race we're talking about here. You can keep talking about him. And yeah, this was at Laurel.
Yeah, and he you could tell that the horse learned something in that race.
Bloop. Just way behind the field here.
Full disclosure, I bet this horse that day.
And honestly, a lot of the time that's the most important thing, because when you bet a horse, you're watching that individual trip so much. So not only were you watching the bad start, but then what ends up happening after, completely missed the break, way out of it, kind of kept to the inside and it's traveling really well. Doesn't have a whole lot of room late when the horse starts kind of getting into contention. I thought just a really nice effort from a horse who ends up finishing 4th, only beaten a couple lengths.
Yeah, here she comes in the in the picture now. The 3 on the rail, and she's just flying. I mean,
so she's like looking right here. She's got nowhere to go right here, because the horse to the inside is kind of going back and forth. So now she's got a little bit more room, and she still doesn't know what to do, because look at the horse in the yellow cap that's kind of drifting into her right there.
Right. So and that, like, the way this horse runs in the stretch makes me think that this horse will want to stretch out. Not only that, the pedigree says the same thing.
Yep.
You know, there's some milers in there on the turf. And I think that this horse is going to merit a really good shot at probably what's going to be second, third, maybe 4th choice, but definitely not the favorite. I think Ward is just going to take all the money here and probably, deserve it in that function, but I couldn't do it myself personally.
So others to discuss. The
1 is the other one I kind of liked a little bit. I think that horse improved at Kentucky Downs and was a little up against it, from a running style standpoint at Kentucky Downs, because everybody was winning on the lead there. And this horse kind of made up a little bit of ground and flattened out. But I think that foundation will do this horse a lot of good in this race.
So Alexa Zepp, who I do a lot of videos with for DRF now, and we work on a show that airs every Friday on Sports Grid at 2:30 Eastern time to 3. It's 30 minutes. It's called the Daily Racing Form Weekend Preview. On that show, it's just a 30-minute show with 3 segments. First segment, we do a full race analysis of like one of the biggest races of the week. So we're doing the Raven Run this week. And then we do a pick 5 in the second segment. And Alexa's, so we put together a pick 5 ticket. She'll send me her picks, and then I'll kind of look them over and see where we have similarities and map out a ticket, and she'll look at it and we'll go back and forth a little. She likes the one, Fix and To Be. That was one of her horses that she wanted to make sure we kept in this last race too. So she wanted to definitely throw that one in. I wanted to give her a little tip of the hat on that one, since you mentioned Fix and To Be, who's beautifully bred for the turf. Just
absolutely
beautifully bred. And just not every horse is immediately ready first time out. She took a step forward from start 1 to start 2. That was her first start going longer. It was also at a track that's a little bit funky and a little bit difficult sometimes. So she can sit nicely from the inside, save all the ground. She's not far below the top contenders in here. The 6, Dinair, she ran behind Ballerina Dioro, who had a really unlucky trip in the Jessamine. She was the one who came back in that one and had a little bit of trouble. This is a horse who also has a nice little pedigree. I believe this is the one who has a couple solid. Yeah. So this one has a solid turf pedigree that you could feel like there's improvement there, with Sadler's Joy being a horse that we saw repeatedly facing graded stakes company and at the highest levels going long. Wolfie's Dynaghost, very good horse. He's more of a synthetic specialist, but he's solid on the turf too. It's not like he's a slouch. He just is a lot better on the synthetic. Lunaire was a multiple winner on the turf. Faraday was a multiple winner on the turf. So you go up and down this pedigree. Dyna Passer, multiple winner on the turf. Hail 2, multiple winner on the turf. There is a lot of solid grass horses in here for the 6. Take note of this, who fits pretty well, can sit close on the improve, exits a race that I think was pretty strong and has a really, really nice pedigree. Let's see. Who else should we mention? Judith is a first-time starter. Informed Decision was a good one. She was the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint winner. She wasn't a turf horse, but she was very, very good. Just solid overall. And she produced 3 siblings that have won on turf. So she has a nice pedigree there too, does Judith. And when you think about this barn, if you were to say, what does the Jonathan Thomas barn do really well? Go long on the grass. And they can get horses to win first time out of the box or going long on the grass. This is I think they're 9 for their last 72 with first-time starters. That's first-time starters going long on the turf. That's 13%.
Not bad.
That's really not bad. Not bad at all. And for something that's difficult to do. So Irad jumps aboard. Probably won't get that much of a price because of that. You won't. Maybe this one can kind of fall through the cracks a little bit.
Whenever I see or hear the name Judith, I think of Saving Silverman.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. If all the nachos stick together, is it one nacho? One nacho? That's a good one. Do we got anything else? Yeah, the 10 is going to be a player.
Yeah, the 10 was a horse that I just don't want any part of. I don't know, the barn is kind of cold at this point.
And has to prove it going longer.
Right, and it's just a dead closer. That was a horse I thought, as far as morning line wise, should have been flip-flopped with the 8.
Sure, I can see that happening. And the only other one, if you're looking for a big long shot, at least an underneath horse, in a race where there's not that much speed, the 4 could either get in front of the 3 or sit right behind the 3, just coming out of that sprint race. Like if Running Away just wants to let that horse go and sit second, that kind of thing wouldn't shock me. Or maybe the 4 is just kind of sitting right behind Running Away, and Running Away gets tired, and this is one of the closer horses to her. She actually has a dam who was a 5-time winner on the turf, and she should be catching a flyer in here or sitting way closer than most of this group. So if you're playing tries, supers, you're looking for a bust out horse at the end of a rough Saturday, maybe throw this one into some of your exotics. Could be a really big price and give you a good run for your money. They're being forwardly placed throughout. Barry Buddy, another pick 5 in the books. Can you believe? I think we only have one more to discuss from Keeneland. Is that right?
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've covered a lot of ground over the last few weeks. And you mentioned earlier that you're doing some work on the notorious OTB with Chase. Don't forget, everyone, Keeneland, whatever you need, DRF picks, betting strategies on Saturdays, past performances, everything. They also have the Breeders' Cup the packages now, and the pre-entries are coming out next week on the 23rd. So if you purchase the package now, you'll save 40%. And then when the pre-entries come out, you can access those. And then when the actual entries come out, you'll be able to access those. So you might as well save a little money if you want to get ahead and start handicapping. I like to do that when there's a lot of work for the Breeders' Cup. So anything you want to say before we get out of here, buddy?
Let's get this money.
Let's do it this weekend. Good luck to all of you. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. If you're watching on YouTube, if you subscribe below, you'll get alerts every time we have videos like this. You'll see lots of race previews for the most part, and then NFL stuff right now too. We'll have previews of all the football games each week on Wednesdays or Thursday, and then we'll again on Sunday mornings at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern time each and every week. Hope you all have a great weekend. Good luck in all your plays. Barry Buddy will finish up the Keeneland meet next week, and we wish you the best of luck.